Hey everyone, I hope you all had a great week. I want to talk about a big oversight hearing on Brightline, the All Aboard Florida, the rail project that we had this week Thursday. But first of all, as you know, this week Tuesday was tax day, actually as a result of a massive IT failure by the IRS. The last day to file ended up being Wednesday, another subject. But if you're like me and most Americans, you're probably not a huge fan of tax day, and the IT failures this year didn't exactly inspire confidence in the IRS, but there is a silver lining. First of all, this was the last tax day that you will ever have to file your taxes under the old system with higher tax brackets and more complicated rules. Next year, when you file your taxes, you'll be filing under simpler, fairer rules. That means lower taxes, higher standard of deduction, much bigger child tax credit, double, actually you might say, and a lot more. In short, American families across the country, across all of the counties that I have the opportunity to represent, Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, will be keeping more of the money that they earn in their pockets. That means that a family of four with a median household income, they're going to get to keep an additional roughly $2,000 a year. I know that that's a lot of money to anybody. And second, this week we passed a comprehensive bipartisan package reforming the IRS outdated and inefficient IRS system. And I think we can all agree that the IRS is in desperate need of these reforms. You've probably dealt with their ridiculous wait times, frustrating bureaucracy, and just overall poor customer service. And that's exactly the singular mission behind this bill package, and that's improving taxpayer service. These bills completely modernize the IRS infrastructure in order to provide greater accountability and transparency and security. And that includes strengthening cybersecurity, increasing protections against identity theft, and dramatically upgrading IRS technology to bring the IRS service into the 21st century. The days of using fax machines for IRS business can hopefully be over. You can read a lot more about all of these bills on my website, www.mast.house.gov, as in government. Finally, we had our long-awaited oversight hearing on Brightline's use of taxpayer subsidized financing despite claiming to be not publicly funded at all. This is one of the top issues that I hear about, and on Thursday we finally had the opportunity to demand answers from Brightline and the Department of Transportation about exactly what's going on. The issue centers around Brightline's application to use private activity bonds, which is a tax-exempt subsidy from the American taxpayer. What's worse is that they're attempting to circumvent congressional intent. When Congress created the law on these tax-exempt private activity bonds, they stated that in order for a high-speed passenger railway to qualify for these PABs, as we call them, the train had to go in excess of 150 miles per hour. Because Brightline doesn't have the technology to go 150 miles per hour, they're instead claiming to qualify for a private activity bond as a highway. Now, if Congress had intended to provide private activity bonds for passenger trains traveling at 80 to 110 miles per hour, like Brightline does, then Congress would have just said so. Any other interpretation, as I said in this hearing that I had, I think is an affront to the American taxpayer. And something very big happened in this hearing. Testifying before Congress, Brightline admitted that they lied when they said that their project is not publicly funded at all. This is a direct quote from the hearing. There has been public funding granted. That was the quote. There has been public funding granted. This is also a direct quote. In our committee hearing today, Brightline's president said that residents of the Treasure Coast are narrow-minded. That's a very unfortunate quote that we heard from Brightline. Martin County Fire Rescue Division Chief for Emergency Management testified that the safety risks from Brightline are real. They're not hypothetical, and that there is a real potential for significant harm. I don't know about you, but I don't think that caring about safety makes any of us narrow-minded. As a parent myself, there's nothing, literally nothing more important to me than the safety of my children and, of course, my wife, Brianna. The fact is, they had to resort to name-calling because they can't answer some very basic questions. When asked repeatedly what Brightline would do to address the county's safety concerns moving forward, they could not or would not answer the question, and their deception about the use of taxpayer money is equally unacceptable. That's why I'm calling on the Department of Transportation to revoke their allocation of tax-exempt private activity bonds for Brightline and put a stop to taxpayer subsidies for this dangerous expansion. You can watch my full remarks from the hearing on my Facebook page if you want, and dig in more to the details of how Brightline's original claim that they were not publicly funded is just a nonsense claim. If you have any further thoughts after watching, I encourage you, reach out, because this is an issue that we're certainly going to keep working on. As always, it is an honor to represent you in Congress. I hope that you all have a great week. I hope to see you all around this weekend, and I'll be back up to work again here in Washington on Monday morning. You all have a great weekend.